and kind of go through this and really kind of show them exactly, or show some agents exactly what maybe some other successful agents are doing on a daily basis. What we've personally done, or I've personally done on a daily basis, as far as how I work the system, what kind of a daily routine looks like, and just ultimately what it's going to look like, and how I'm going to ensure that I'm actually successful, and not letting kind of leads kind of slip through the cracks or anything like that. So um, we'll kind of do some Q&A as well as we go through this, or at the end of this. Ryan, I guess if any of the kind of attendees have any questions.
Yep.
But we'll just dive right into this, and we'll probably provide everybody with a PDF doc of this, I'm assuming, at the end of this call, or post it to the Facebook group so that they can grab that if they want to, have something that they can check off.
Yeah, and if you happen to be watching a replay on YouTube, we'll put it in the description. So go ahead, Ernest.
Perfect. So the number one activity right here that I see most often is the complete scheduled calls and task. I know as an agent, it can be hard, or it can be a daunting task to make sure that we're doing our follow-up. And if you're like a traditional style agent where you continuously, put your notes on your bulletin board, you have your pen and pad, you have kind of your index or your calendar that you roll around with, it could be really kind of frustrating to try and stay on top of your calls and your task, or maybe just your assignments that you have to do. And now you're adopting technology. So the number one is to actually complete the calls and tasks, and really help yourself or train yourself to utilize KV Core to its full potential when it comes to actually scheduling those. So at the top in the left corner right here, we're always going to have our today's summary that's going to show you all of your calls and all of your tasks in which you have to complete for yourself that day. Now, these calls and tasks can be scheduled a couple different ways. The first way is calls and tasks are scheduled through what we call our smart campaigns. So as you start generating leads and setting them up on new lead campaigns or active lead buyer campaigns, there are going to be call assignments and task assignments that start getting scheduled from those campaigns to really keep you on top of your follow-up for those leads, so you don't miss an opportunity, or maybe you can help yourself create a new opportunity or conversation for yourself. But these can also be used manually. And what I mean by that is, maybe I want to schedule myself a call to go through and make a phone call to to one of my title reps or to one of my LOs. I can have everybody in my database set up as a sphere with the contact type of vendor, so that I can really kind of maximize my usage and centralize my entire calendar, or centralize my entire database into one platform. So I can go into here and I can click on add call. And then this third option, or this third tab labeled over here off to the far right, is called scheduled call. And this is where I can manually go in and schedule myself a call. Maybe I want to schedule myself a call to a past buyer. Maybe I want to schedule myself a call to, a title rep, just to call in and see how closing docs are coming, or what's our ETA on closing, make sure we're going to meet our deadlines. You could really kind of get creative with these calls, because as you really start going in and adding them, you can also see that if you've done your Google Sync with your KV Core platform, you can go ahead and add that to your Google Calendar as well. So if you sync that with Google, you'll get a little push notification reminding you on this date and on this time that you actually have to complete that call. So I would go through here and I would actually find my contact. So I do have a test contact in here that I can use. I would type in what my phone call is about, follow up with Ernest about closing docs, right? Maybe this is your title rep. Maybe this is your mortgage lender, whoever it might be. You could really kind of use these manually to really kind of at your disposal, depending on what you want to do with it. So again, maybe it's follow up with closing docs. Maybe it's follow up with the lender about a pre-approval. Maybe it's follow up with your sphere of influence. Maybe you want to make sure that you follow up with the buyer that you just procured. You can really kind of set yourself these call assignments manually to make sure that you can kind of go in there and follow up with those leads. We can also schedule ourselves tasks, and these tasks can also be manually assigned to yourself, again, using that quick actions drop down. I can go in and I can add myself a task reminding me to go ahead and send this thanks.io postcard, or go and send this postcard out to these, to these leads. Or maybe you want to do some farming, or maybe you want to use this for like your home inspection response, right? Keep you on top of your contingencies. We know those are a big deal throughout the real estate transactions. And maybe in 10 days, that you have to have your buyer's response to a home inspection that you just did on Tuesday, or that you just did yesterday, right?
Yeah,
so
That's interesting, Ernest, and maybe we could circle back around that because we don't have kind of the action plan top producer functionality built in per se, but this can be around servicing listings and transactions. But this can be approximated and pretty much done through smart campaigns, right? Scheduling these tests.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. So one thing that I try to do on coaching sessions as well with smart campaigns and building out custom smart campaigns is that you can really kind of dive in deep, and maybe your smart campaign for your contract isn't just like task reminders like the default campaign is in there. Maybe it's a series of like, hey, here's a 10-day inspection contingency. Here's by when we should have our appraisal back, and it's really kind of more action plans or more steps that are related to the process of helping a buyer or a seller close on that transaction
Rather than
deal.
derail you right now, I think maybe tomorrow I'll do that if you want to join me if you can. But either way, maybe we'll build out a listing servicing plan and a conveyancing plan in a smart campaign.
Yeah, that would be awesome
Yeah,
because I do know that manually adding these can be great as well.
yeah.
I prefer the manual add at the time because time is of value, so you really don't have them in there yet. So with adding a manually, some inspection contingencies are 10 days, some are 15 days, some
Right.
are 20 days. Really, it's just ultimately about what you've mutually agreed upon with that listing agent or with that selling
Okay.
agent.
So
Um,
you mean when you get a new deal, you'll go to the contact record and start scheduling the contingency dates under that contact.
Exactly,
Okay.
specifically for that contact, because just depending on negotiations, I mean, we're in a time where the market's still hot, so maybe some sellers are trying to get that no inspection contingency. Maybe some sellers are trying to get the waiver of appraisal. So these are all things that are kind of relative to the process of that transaction, but more relevant to that contact in specific. So I manually will go in there and do it. So I'll say like, hey, I have a home inspection contingency. I got 10 days, and I know I got 10 days because I wrote the contract. So I have 10 days from today, which it was mutually accepted to go in and make sure that I have that response back to that listing agent.
Awesome.
Right. But sometimes you might mutually agree upon 15 days. Sometimes it might be quicker, right? It might be 5 days. It just all just depends on what's in the contract.
And you can assign that to other team members.
I could assign this to myself if you're a admin and maybe you're have a transaction coordinator or something like that that works, on your team platform where it says assigned to. I can go ahead and assign that to the assigned agent of that lead. So maybe you have somebody that works with you and you've gone ahead and made them an admin on your platform. You could go ahead and again assign them as the assigned agent this task to complete. So if you have somebody an assistant or something like that, and you're on a core team platform, you're an office admin, you can use that assigned agent option drop down so that you can assign that task to that agent who is assigned to the lead.
Cool.
So yeah,
And then you could repeat. Sorry to keep cutting you, but you can also repeat tasks. I saw on the last screen when adding repeat calls as well, right? Uh,
yeah. So the repeat phone calls is a great option when you're scheduling a call. Maybe you've reached out to a lead and they said, "Hey, Ernest, you know what? I'm just not yet ready to buy." But follow up with me, every so often and just make sure, something hasn't changed. I would actually use that repeat phone calls option because I can go in and maybe I know they're in a lease agreement for the next, 6 months. Maybe I know they're in a lease agreement for the next, year. I
yeah.
could go in there and schedule those repeat phone calls in there because once they respond or once you get a hold of them and they're responding to you, technically, if you're going based off of how the default campaigns are written, this lead would become an active lead, not a new lead.
Could you use that for past client follow up, the repeat calls, or will it change the status on those too?
No, yeah, you could use this for
Yeah.
past call clients as well. So like if you have somebody in a close status or if you have somebody in like a sphere of influence with a hashtag of past client,
Yeah.
and you don't want to set them up on necessarily a smart campaign, you could use this number of repeat calls and say, I want to call them 10 times over the next 2 years.
Yeah, to me, that's low hanging fruit for a lot of agents who've been in the business a long time who maybe are not so on top of keeping in touch with their sphere and their past clients. If you just go make sure everybody has a repeat call like this set up, there's ROI in that activity.
Exactly. And this, the system's going to remind you about these calls. And that's why it's my number one priority on my activities agents to do daily, because the system not only is going to email you every morning about the calls and tasks of which you have to complete, it's going to be right there on your dashboard. It's also going to be in the KV Core mobile app when you open up the app as well. So there's 3 different places where you're going to see these calls and these tasks. Not to mention that if you've done like the Google Sync or if you've added those to your calendar, you'll have your calendar on the dashboard as well. Plus, if it's on your cellular device and you have the email connected or the calendar connected up here, that's on the same one on your phone, they're going to just kind of follow you around. So again, it's really kind of integrating everything and taking your business all into one platform and centralizing it. So I know, as an agent myself, before KV Core, it was like you had the whiteboard and you're jotting things down, you're jotting all your clients down, and then when you're on the road, you don't have any of that information. So this is really going to kind of keep all that info with you. So if you're out maybe networking, if you're out grabbing coffee, showing homes, running a listing appointments, this is really going to follow you around. So between those kind of appointments or that schedule that you have, if you have some free time, you'll be able to quickly perform these actions.
And they're easy to complete from the app too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are some really cool functionalities in being able to, schedule those calls and schedule those tasks. I really like using the scenario of using it for home inspections, using it for, using it for more tasks that you're actually doing throughout a transaction. As a listing agent, you could even use those tasks if you want to, keep on top of like, hey, we have photos today, we have this today, we have this day, and so forth.
Yeah, I love that for just listed cards. Run the property boost ad, things like that could be put into a smart campaign attached to that contact, and then every day you wake up and it's just sitting there. What to do next on that listing.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is always my go-to. I know, this is something that I would check on a daily basis. Is just, hey, this is how many calls I have to do today. This is how many tasks. And by putting your entire business into the platform, you're not going to have to go and say, okay, I got to go check this calendar, or I got to check, my pocketbook. I got to, make sure I get with this calendar. It's all right here for you outlined. So you know exactly how much you have to do today. All the tasks that you have to complete. And then as you start going through, of course, you can click on that calls filter, you can click on that task filter, and it's going to show you basically everything that you have assigned to yourself for that day.
Great. Christian's asking, and I'm actually not sure on this question, but if you create a smart campaign, can you adjust the dates for the campaign? So if it fired for a new listing, could you then go? I don't think the calls or tasks will actually show up until they're due, right?
Right. Yeah. So you can't have them. I think the question is more like, can you adjust the smart campaigns to be date specific? Um, and the answer to that is the smart campaigns are day value specific. So for instance, if I put somebody under contract today and today was mutual acceptance, and I had a task reminder saying, hey, respond to this home inspection contingency on day 10, it's going to be scheduled 10 days from that initial day of that campaign starting.
I'd hack that up, and it's pretty easy. And it, every situation is different. You could just build the smart campaign to have all the individual tasks fire on day one, and then as they show up, you can move them, right? So they basically show up, and then you'd go into your tasks and you'd move the dates on them.
Right, but I don't think our tasks currently are editable.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be able to move it. It would have to be scheduled day 10, day 15, day 20. And that's why I like using the manual for right now, because the smart campaign is just going to kind of be a defaulted day 10, day 15, day 20, as opposed to quick actions and adding my own task currently. I could be more date specific. So if I knew today, like, hey, was mutual acceptance, I got 10 days from today to make sure I get that inspection response. I can schedule that for October 16th. And most contingency expires, at 9 p.m. On that day. So I can go ahead and schedule that task at 9 p.m. But when I click on my task filter, it would still show in there as due today.
Yeah, and I'm chatting with our product team. I did know, I think I'm getting a little confused, but we do have a major overhaul to the task coming, Ernest,
Right.
Hopefully by the end of the month. So there should be a lot more functionality here.
Exactly. And hopefully we can get that integrated into the smart campaigns, because I know that's a huge deal for agents, is being able to, hey, I just want to work out of one system, not have to, bounce back and forth between my calendar and my system and so forth. So again, number one task, complete those calls and tasks. You can really kind of get the idea of how you can schedule those manually now. So hopefully that's some value to the agents out there that are attending this today.
Nice.
The number two, we did a session on this about a week ago, but re-engaging with leads via mass communication. One of the things that I hear most often is agents are kind of like, man, what do I do with these? Or what should I do with all the leads in my system? And my answer to that is re-engage with them. You have past clients. Everybody has a sphere of influence. We all know someone who knows someone, or we all know someone who has and can add at least 10 contacts a week or 10 contacts a day, depending on how long your friends list is. But the idea behind re-engagement is that in the smart CRM, we have mass communication features via mass email and mass text. Now, maybe you're not one who goes and generates a bunch of leads. Maybe you more so work like your past database, right? And in that specific scenario, I could import all those leads as like a sphere of influence contact or status type with a contact type of like buyer or seller, right? Maybe I helped them buy a home, so that would make them a seller. Maybe they're a renter right now. Maybe it's like a friend, a family, a relative. They're a renter who will become a buyer as well. The idea behind this is that you can go through and create these filtered lists, like you can see that I have up here at the top. And with re-engagement, maybe you're just going to re-engage with leads that you haven't emailed in the last month, or maybe you're going to re-engage with leads who have a hashtag of past client 2017. The idea behind creating these filtered lists is that you can quickly go into them and say the last time I emailed, and it pulls up my list right here, and I can select all, and I can quickly fire off a mass email saying something like, hey, just wanted to check in. It's been a while since I've emailed you. I just wanted to follow up and see if you were still in the market looking for a home, or in the market to sell your home and needed some assistance. Right, re-engaging with our leads. Real estate's a relationship-based business. So the more conversations that you can start for yourself, the more opportunities and more windows that you're actually going to open for yourself. So if I can go out and talk to 10 people and ask 10 different people for a referral, or if they know someone who's looking to buy or sell any real estate, I might actually get one referral from each of those 10 people that turn into 10 transactions. Or I might go 1 for 10. I might go 2 for 10. The idea is that we can work those leads, especially if they're already in our database and they're a past client. You know their neighborhood, you know where they live, and you can simply do what I call as a soft touch and reach out to those people and just start a conversation. Say, hey, it's been almost 2 years, or it's been 3 years since I helped you buy that house. How are things? Have you met any neighbors? Seen any new neighbors move in? Or do you know of any neighbors who might be considering selling their home? I'd love for you to drop my name in the bucket. And have an opportunity to help you choose your next neighbor, right? So just some really cool proactive ways to use those mass email, mass text, and we have a whole session on that you can go back and watch on YouTube, and I believe it's in the Success Strategies Facebook group as well. So, but creating filtered list, that is, my number 2 activity right there, re-engaging with those filtered lists, whether it's, people you haven't talked to, your sphere of influence, prospects, new leads. Just re-engage with everybody, right? Don't let them sit stagnant in your database, or don't let them sit in your CRM untouched, because there's going to be some other agent out there that if you're not dripping on them or touching those leads or sending them value, somebody else is going to win that business, right? And we've seen this firsthand. I've experienced it where you drop the bucket, right? Or you drop the ball, you forget to follow up, don't follow up. And when you call, it's like, hey, I've already bought or I've already sold. So just make sure that we're on a daily basis going through, and I say 100. That's just kind of dependent on your database. This could be 5 leads. It could be 2 leads. It could be 1 lead. The idea is that we just want to re-engage with those leads via mass communication on a daily basis to try and start that conversation.
So boil down, it's send a mass email or send a mass text with something interesting or a direct question. Basically.
Exactly. Try and bring those people back to our website, or back to us and conversing with us.
Yeah, I didn't catch your last webinar a week or so ago, but one of the main ways I would do this is the property search of the week, deal of the week. If you want to just use the content that's there, and I'm sure, Ernest, you had a bunch of other ideas in that previous webinar.
Yeah, no, those are definitely on my top. I've always taken that advice with like properties of the week. You got to use some sort of value or low hanging fruit to really kind of get them attracted back into it. Or back to you, right? So say, hey, I handpicked these properties of the week for you in a mass email and send it out to them, bring them back to your website. I also do that with number 3, where it says build at least one squeeze page or landing page and post that to your social. I want to be doing this on a daily basis. A squeeze page and a landing page shouldn't take you but maybe 5 or 10 minutes to build. But being creative with them, like Ryan was just mentioning, your properties of the week. Maybe you want to build a landing page for your properties of the week, or maybe you want to build your squeeze page for the properties of the week. I would go through here on a daily basis and actually create one of these or both of these, and just post it to my social page, because you're going to have a lot of connections that are registered in your database or registered on your website that you might not even know about. So by posting this, maybe those search alerts are going right to their email, but maybe this person doesn't check their email often. So by posting squeeze pages and landing pages, you're going to bring back maybe that audience that you didn't know you had back to your website. And as they start coming back to your website, again, the idea behind this is that we can re-engage with them. They're searching on our site. You know what they're doing because KV Core has all the tools for you to be able to see the properties that they're looking at, the properties they're saving. You really have some really good tools here to make sure that you don't miss an opportunity. So creating a squeeze page, I might go through on a daily basis and just create something for my niche, right? Maybe I'm a market specialist for, and on this one, the city of Nyack, right? I can go through and I can start building a squeeze page for, all the new single family homes just listed in Nyack. And I would basically just take this squeeze page and post it to my business page, post it to my personal page, and try and bring maybe those connections that we already have back to our site, because the system, meaning KV Core, is going to keep them logged in for 30 days, as long as they've come back to our website. So we set that, that cookie or whatever on their browser. And essentially what's happening is as they click on it, if they've already logged in and they're on the same device, it's going to continue to log them into your website, therefore giving you the activity and their actions of what they're doing or their behavior. Also, with this, you're going to open up new lead opportunities. So maybe you've taken this squeeze page that you've built and you're going to post it to Facebook. So we can go and say Facebook is my configuration. I can also create a hashtag here. And I put a source of Facebook. That's so that the leads will come through, of course, with that source of Facebook if they're a new registered lead. I can then use like the generate link, and I can go, and again, once it was post this to our business page, I could start sharing it to buy free sell trade forms. I can start maybe running like a properties of the week type advertisement. I've kind of done some testing with that verbiage at the top of some paid ads, and it actually performs really, really well. So Ryan has some really good recommendations on the properties of week. Just tossing that as your title and putting like a squeeze page right below that, you're going to get a bunch of clicks and a bunch of traffic going to it. Maybe if you're more technical inclined, you can go and run like a Facebook lead form if you know how to do that with a properties of the week title, and drive them to a squeeze page with registration disabled or registration delayed. Right. So
Yep.
just some really cool ways to do that. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. We have a little help doc in the help portal, Ernest. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it lists some of the kind of ideas by what we mean by that property search of the day or property search of the week. So I dropped that in the chat here.
Perfect. Yeah, I use that a lot. I use that verbiage a lot. This properties of the week, throw a paid ad on Facebook, or even just use it in your post when you go ahead and post to your business page. Again, the idea is that we can maybe generate some new lead opportunities for ourselves, and for those leads who have already registered, and we might have like a Facebook connection with them, if they follow your business page. When they click on that squeeze page, again, it logs them into your website. As long as they're on the same browser, therefore giving you the ability to really kind of monitor their activity, which leads us into number 4, which is prospecting. Now, one of the best prospecting tools that I've found is on your dashboard. We have this activity stream, and everybody has a little bit different interpretation of prospecting. Some people consider prospecting maybe calling cold leads. Kind of my definition here of prospecting is just prospecting leads that you already know are warm. What I mean by that is I know what that lead is doing on my website. So what I might do on a daily basis is just start here from the most recent activity and start working through to the most, the maybe like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, just depending on how much activity we have. But the idea here is that, I know a search alert went out to a lead, or I know, like if they've saved the property, I know a behavioral alert went out to a lead. Be based off of that behavior. But as an agent, it should never restrict me from, I know a text and an email went out, or a text or an email went out. I should pick up the phone and call that lead, right? And say, hey, Ernest, just reached out to you a little bit a while ago about that property you saved on my website. It notified me and let me know that you might have some more interest in it. Just thought I'd follow up with a phone call, let you know I'm a real person, and see if you had any questions or wanted to schedule an in-person tour of that property. Right. So I could really use this as ammo to go through and start, reaching out proactively to these leads and really using it as a prospecting tool to try and start a conversation or basically try and win a new deal for myself. So going through here and just looking at this activity option on a daily basis is going to be a huge, object that you can use, or a huge tool that you can use for your success when it comes to, trying to start conversations, or earn that extra deal that you've set a goal for yourself to win this year. And then the last thing here is just working your sphere of influence. Number 5, call and ask for referrals, do a soft touch in. I'm not sure how many of you put your past clients into your database, but the way I would categorize those leads is I would put them into that sphere status. And then once in a sphere status, again, I would label them as a buyer or a seller. Everybody is one of those two things, or even a renter. But put your sphere of influence in here. If I help somebody buy a house, that makes them a seller. And if they're going to buy or sell that house in the future, most likely they're going to be a buyer seller. They could also be a buyer renter, right? Meaning they're renting right now, going to buy in the future. But the idea behind this is get them into the system so that you can go through, and again, with like re-engaging, we could use those mass communication features, and do what, I consider a soft touch. Maybe you have core video, maybe you have core voicemail, and you just want to kind of nurture these leads. Maybe you want to send your sphere sellers that you've closed last year a personalized video with core video that you've just shot, saying, hey, here's a market update. Click the link below. You can drop a link to that page on your website, right? We all have them on the bottom of your site. I don't know if you've seen these areas we cover, but you could drop a link to that areas that you cover for that specific neighborhood of that lead. Shoot a personalized video and email that or text that to them and say, hey, here's your monthly market update. You could also get them set up on market updates inside their profile. So if you open up the leads profile, we have the market update option right here that you can go in and set that up for them, right? And maybe that's something you're going to reach out to them about. Maybe you're going to say, okay, I know a market update just went out on September 7th. I should actually go ahead and email or text Ernest and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up. What'd you think of that market report? You've been in your house for almost 2 years and have like $60,000 in equity. Have you considered selling? Are you considering it? Maybe a new job opportunity opened up. Really kind of reach out to them and work your sphere of influence that way. And again, you can put your vendors in here as well. So this could be, I can put my sphere of influence in here with the contact type of vendor. And then I can give all my inspectors a hashtag. I can give all my LOs a hashtag. I can give all my title and escrow officers a hashtag. I can put in, professional vendors, like maybe your marketer or whoever it might be. You can really get creative with how you import your database using that sphere and vendor status, and just, reach out to them. Maybe invite somebody to go play a round of golf. Maybe just reach out to them and say, hey, I don't know if you have any buyers, maybe without any representation, who might be interested in hiring an agent to help them buy. Again, this is kind of a scenario if you're reaching out to like a mortgage broker or someone like that. But just use the actual system to your full advantage, because you can get all those leads in here. You have the mass communication feature. You can really work that sphere of influence in here and just ask for referrals. If you go through any coaching with like a Buffini or Tom Ferry or any of those guys, they're really going to harp on a lot working your sphere of influence and asking for referrals. I know Buffini's course actually says to ask for referrals 3 times throughout a transaction before you close that deal with that lead. So just some opportunities and some ways that you could actually use the KV course system on a daily basis. And again, this is all dependent. So don't actually go and mass email 100 leads every day if you only have 100 leads in your database. Kind of break that number down to where you can have, 5 days of activities and perform these actions day after day after day after day. And you're actually going to start seeing some results as long as you stay on top of all these things.
Number 5, just to keep going with that, I would almost add to your SOI too, because there's a lot of if you can try to add one person a day and get them on property alerts who might be in your wider Rolodex, or maybe as a Facebook friend or something, as part of working your sphere.
Yeah, no, that's a great That's a great thing that you bring that up too, because I've seen where agents use that for recruiting, right? They add sphere of influence, they put them in as an agent. So if you're a recruiter for a marketing for a brokerage, get them in as a sphere, put them in as an agent, set them up on market reports, set them up on search alerts, and that agent's going to ask you, hey man, what system are you using?
Yeah, just one warm contact, one new maybe the way to look at it is just get somebody new in there and then work a couple of existing, you know. Uh, it's a nice 1-2 punch. And then property alerts are always the way to go. If you can get people to agree to be getting those or just set them up for them.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great point that you bring up there.
Yep.
But any questions or anything coming through the chat, Ryan?
Yeah. So does anybody have anything else that that you do on a regular basis that you'd like to see on this list that you think should be here? Also, just technically, Ernest, keep holding yourself accountable. Would you use a Google Calendar and set recurring appointments, or could we set up recurring tasks in the system? How would you remember to do all this stuff every day?
Yeah, so I mean, it just becomes habit. Again, these are 5 activities that I've personally done on a daily basis. So when I get a lead under contract, I know to go in here and make sure that okay, this lead's under contract. I need to go and assign task to complete that home inspection contingency to remind me of when appraisal is. Again, if you sync your calendar using the Google Sync here, it's not only going to add to your calendar those tasks that you manually add, and also those call assignments that you sync to your Google. On your dashboard here, it's going to show your calendar
Yeah.
anytime you click that calendar feature, or that calendar tab.
One of
So
the one of the things I like to recommend then is you could take these 5 things and you can make it one big calendar event that happens every morning from 8 to 9 a.m. or whatever, when you start your day, just so you run through. To make it a habit, you got to run through the sequence on a regular basis.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, realistically, these things should only take you at most 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, if let's say you have 10 calls for that day, it doesn't mean 10 people are going to answer. It might mean that one person answers and you leave nine voicemails, or it might mean that 5 people answer and you leave 5 voicemails, right? And then your task assignments. Again, these task assignments can be like weekly check-ins. They can be home inspection responses. These are already things that you're going to be doing. It's just a nice reminder saying, okay, I have this due today. I have this due today. I have this due today. And maybe your task reminder is for like, hey, send the birthday postcard for a specific contact. So maybe my 8 to 9 looks like, okay, I'm doing my 5 activities that agents should do daily. And then my end of day task would be to schedule maybe any additional task for myself that I would want to complete in the following days, right? Or any new task from putting another buyer or seller under contract for myself. So another task plan.
Yep. Cool. I don't see many other questions, but I think, guys, there's a lot of gold in just coming up with these 5 activities, or come up with your own set of ways that you interact with your database, which is more or less what you're talking about, Ernest. It's managing your database, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's business is different. So, what mine might look like and what yours might look like is going to be totally different. So maybe just build off of this, or maybe edit this to fit how you operate on a daily basis. But again, the idea is just to remind yourself of those 5 things that are going to make you successful, right? So calling and making sure I'm completing my task is going to make me successful. How? It's making my calls, right? Following up with my leads, following up with my task that I actually have to complete. Re-engaging with leads via mass communication. How does this help me be successful? It helps me by maybe starting a new conversation or opening up a new opportunity that I might not have had at the beginning of today.
And getting the most out of the money you spent generating the leads.
Exactly, right? You spend $1,000 a month on leads, and if let's say you pull one out and you run with it, you're like, hey, I have a good lead. You still have 990, or you still have, let's say you generate 100 leads, right? You still have 99 leads left that you could be working and re-engaging with. So instead of pulling one lead, try and pull out 5, try and pull out 10, try and get most value out of those leads. Because my kind of theory with leads is, yeah, you generate them, they might be unresponsive, but until they tell me to stop, it's still a valid lead. And at some point in time, they will be a buyer, a seller, or a renter, right? Whether that's tomorrow, whether that's a year from now, whether it's 2 years from now, It's all about filling that pipeline and really kind of performing these activities, because who knows, you might hit the nail on the head with your mass text on the day that a renter said, hey, I'm fed up with the neighbors upstairs and they're ready to buy a house, or the seller's fed up with their neighbors, or maybe they have enough equity and maybe they need to downsize, right? Their kids going to college, don't need that 5 bed, 4 bath, 3,000 square foot house anymore. Now they need something more realistic, single story, 2 bed, 3 bed, so forth. So doing these things are definitely going to help you be successful. But again, kind of interpret them into your own business. If this is kind of the way you see you're operating, work off of this, print it out, put little check marks the first week or so as you kind of go through this and make sure you're completing it. And then it'll just become habit. So you got to practice something before it becomes habit. And once it becomes habit, you're going to start seeing some results by doing these things on a daily basis.
Yeah. One last thing I'd like to add too is a lot of people might not think this way. If you're looking at this and saying, hey, where am I going to find the time? This is overwhelming. I mean, if you have the budget and you have the activity, these are also a lot of these things that you can hand off to an assistant. So, get in that mindset maybe and say, hey, maybe you've got an assistant already who you're not utilizing to the fullest, or maybe it is time. You could look at these 5 things and say, hey, it does make sense for me to pay somebody a few hundred a week, whatever it might be, part-time or full-time, to get this stuff done. So definitely. Jorge's asking, do you turn the registration to, Jorge, I can't read your question. Do you turn the registration to new leads? Are you asking to off to new leads so that they don't have to register again? Yeah. Ernest, what do you do? I mean, when you have a new lead and they're getting property alerts, they won't be asked to register again, I'm pretty sure. If that's what you mean. Ernest, what's your thought there?
Right. Yeah. So if they're getting property alerts, they're not going to be asked to register. Same thing with market reports. Now for like lead generation purposes, I'm not a fan of turning registration off unless you're running some sort of like Facebook lead forms where you're capturing their information through a third-party source. But in general, I just like to give them just enough time to get interacted with the website, meaning like 3 or 5 properties if you're looking at what you want to do for registration, so that they get engaged and the buyer that's serious is going to have no problem actually registering. So as opposed to something that's just boom, right in their face, right out of the gate, that pops up, or maybe registration never pops on and we're just driving free traffic to our website and giving them the ability to use it for free. Not sure your interpretation on it, Ryan. I know I do like 3 to 5 personally on my website, especially with like Google pay-per-click ads and stuff like that. Just give them enough properties to look at so that when the registration tool pops open, they're not deterred away from actually providing their information, being that you've already given them the ability to get interacted with your website. They might already know how to use it. I've had it to where buyers already have alerts set up and everything like that, and know where everything is. So
yeah, we actually did a webinar on this. I think it was last week in the replays. I made the argument that you could go either way, but that turning it off is much more sophisticated and if you're building audiences, you can leave it off, but just know you're going to need to retarget that traffic back to actually turn them into leads eventually.
Right.
Yeah. Where do I find the recorded webinars? Patricia's asking. That's at, if you can go to insiderealestate.com/webinars on the screen, but that's where it is, insiderealestate.com/webinars. We also post them to the Facebook group as they, as we finish them up every day, but that first green button will give you all the replays in a YouTube playlist right there. So, well, thanks, Ernest. That was good content. Thanks for coming on again. We'll probably be seeing more of you here. Ernest is on the team here, everybody. So Ernest has some interesting, some more geeky advanced stuff that I'd love to get you on for to show some of what you're doing with messenger bots, text bots. We got a lot of great content coming, guys. So thanks, man.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. And if you, I will plug in the marketplace, we do have our one-on-one coaching, and Ernest right now is one of the main coaches on that. And we've gotten nothing but good stuff said about you so far, Ernest, on those coaching sessions. So if you want to dig deeper on this sort of content and have Ernest look at your situation one-on-one and give you concrete advice, go ahead and book that up from the marketplace. So, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Ernest.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone. Bye.